Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for being here on a Tuesday. We begin this morning on Maui, where 2 weeks after those deadly wildfires tore through the island, search and recovery efforts are still ongoing.
Yesterday, President Biden and the First Lady visited Maui, getting a firsthand look at the devastation there. The visit comes as the mayor of Maui County issued an update on the missing. The number of missing now stands at 850. That's in addition to at least 114 people who are confirmed dead. Some survivors are criticizing the federal government's response, saying it has been inadequate and slow. But President Biden tried to reassure community members in Lahaina yesterday, saying that they will get the help they need and that they're not alone.
Jill and I are here to grieve with you, but also want you to know the entire country is here for you. That's not hyperbole. We mean that.
NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin joins us now from Wailuku. So, Dana, President Biden and the First Lady, as we said, got a chance to tour the damage, to speak with survivors. How did the president spend his time on the ground there?
Joe, good morning to you. So he spent his time on the ground meeting with people and also, as you mentioned earlier, touring that devastated area, including that 150-year-old banyan tree, where he noted that it was burned but still standing. And he also said that this could be a symbol that the people here can get through this. He toured areas where homes, hotels, and even a school once stood. And we're told from people that were traveling with the president that he was taking in the gravity of the devastation here, and it possibly hit him just how devastating this was for the people there. He spent 2 hours at a civic center meeting with local survivors and first responders, hearing their stories, spending one-on-one time with them. Here's what else he said moments ago.
Whatever it takes, as long as it takes. I look at your congressmen and senators and governor and lieutenant governor. We're going to get it done for you. But get it done the way you want it done, not get it done somebody else's way.
And what he's referring to there is the concern that many people here on Maui have had, is that they want to make sure that Lahaina is rebuilt the way that they want it to be rebuilt, and that it's not given away or bought up in a land grab, because a lot of people have said they've received calls from investors who want to buy up that land before it has even been fully searched. And so the president wants to honor the sacred ground here for the people of Maui.
So, Dana, let's talk about the number of people who are still missing. It's officially at 850. I've covered many wildfires where that number starts high, is eventually whittled down. But what is the latest on search and recovery in the burn zone?
So there's about 15% left of that burn zone that has yet to be searched. And we're told it could take weeks because there are a lot of multi-level structures. And engineers are going to have to go through layer by layer, taking them apart to try to search for the remains. The sad part about all of this is, according to the governor, that fire burned so hot that it has reduced remains to ash. He even noted that, unfortunately, some of the victims may never be found. It is a big question why 850 is such a large number, yet only 15% of that disaster area has been searched. I think families are still holding out hope that maybe loved ones left the island really quickly, or maybe they're still having issues with cell service. But it's been 2 weeks, and that is turning grim for a lot of families, because usually you don't go that long without hearing something.
And Dana, I understand you're outside the Maui Council chamber. They're scheduled to hold a meeting later today. Real quickly, what can we expect from that meeting?
So we can expect them to talk about recovery efforts, hopefully. And we're expecting some community members to show up, maybe voice concerns and try to get answers that they have been desperately seeking. This is going to be the first step in recovery when it comes to a plan, or at least hearing from the people all at once, gathering again together to voice their concerns. Joe?
Right. Dana Griffin on Maui. Dana, thank you so much.
Now we want to bring in Tiara Lawrence. She lives on Maui and has been organizing relief efforts and donations for families there. She got a chance to meet with President Biden yesterday during his visit as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we get to that meeting, I do just want to ask you how you and your family are doing. I understand some members of your family lost their home. What's the latest on how you're all doing right now?
You were still experiencing trauma, just grief. still trying to process our feelings and look for our friends and family.
Oh, absolutely. Tell me a little bit about this meeting that you had with President Biden. What did you discuss, and how was the president's visit received?
You know, it was a funky feeling because the setting, you know, a lot of families that should have been there weren't there, but you know, it was well received. I did appreciate him walking around the room and taking the time to talk to the families, and that was something that I really, really appreciated. But at the end of the day, we still have to hold government accountable to their promises, and so that's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, I do want to ask you about exactly that. I mean, I know the president's visit comes as many residents of Maui have criticized FEMA for a slow response to the fires, really relied on fellow Hawaiians, other residents who live there to get any type of help. After hearing the president's remarks, do you feel confident that you and other survivors will get the resources that you need to rebuild?
Respectfully, I have to remain hopeful, but as of now, $700 is just not enough for each family or each person. $700 is, I mean, when you consider the amount of money being sent to Ukraine, and we're in this crisis in Maui, and you're offering $700 per person, it's just not enough. More funding needs to come to Maui. We need more support. We still have 850 people missing. Families are grieving. They're hurting. We have a limited resource of housing. You know, in Hawaii, housing is a very limited issue. Affordable housing is a crisis here in Hawaii. So obviously, on top of that, you know, we're met with a lot of challenges. So it's an uphill battle, but I need to remain hopeful. But I do hope that, the government and people around the world don't forget Lahaina as we, traverse this wave of disaster that has hit our community.
What do you think is the best way that the federal government or any of these relief organizations could assist survivors? Because, like you said, it is this long recovery process ahead. There is still so much grief. What would help?
Allowing the community to be involved in the process, whether it's the cleanup, the rebuild, and funding. Obviously, we need temporary housing and rental assistance to help the families get by, but we need to ensure that land speculators are not allowed to come to Hawaii or to Maui, to Lahaina per se, and that Lahaina is not for sale, and that we ensure that the local families and the multi-generational families are able to return back home when the time is ready and it's safe.
Lahaina is not for sale. That's powerful. Tiara, you've been leading efforts, I know. While you are a resident of Maui, while you have family who's grieving for their losses, you've also still been providing food and supplies to survivors. How has the response been? What have you seen from people who are needing your help?
It's been amazing. The support around the world is absolutely amazing. But like any disaster, 30 days from now, people are going to forget Lahaina. So my job is just really to try to fundraise as much as we can, get as much resources to the families now, and help them, overcome the next 3 months. A lot of them are homeless. They're looking for housing. So, all the support we can get from around the world is very, very critical right now.
Tiara Lawrence, thank you very much for your time this morning and the work that you are doing. We will continue to check in with you. We really appreciate you joining us.
Mahalo nui. Aloha.
This morning, parts of Southern California are in recovery mode, cleaning up the debris and damage left in the wake of Tropical Storm Hilary. It is a rare weather event in a place that has seen its share of other types of natural disasters over the years. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin joins us now from San Bernardino County, California, with the latest. Aaron, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Take a look at this. This looks like it was the product of some sort of earthquake, but this is actually the result of a mudslide. Tropical Storm Hilary changed the landscape of this area, and now crews are working around the clock to clean it up. Meanwhile, overnight in Los Angeles, an emergency situation is developing after a hospital lost complete power. The cause of that power outage is unclear. This morning, first responders working to rescue California's most vulnerable residents. A power outage at White Memorial Hospital in Los Angeles affecting hundreds of patients, including some on ventilators. Emergency evacuations underway as firefighters had to carry some patients down flights of stairs with elevators stalled.
Their tower that specializes in NICU, OBGYN, and specialty rehab completely lost power.
The cause of the outage unclear. But it comes as emergency response teams work throughout the West Coast, as the damage left by Tropical Storm Hilary is coming into fuller view. In Cathedral City, near Palm Springs, heavy mud flows trapping elderly residents. Firefighters using construction equipment to bring them to safety.
To use a 50-ton skip loader, that's not something we do, so it can't be very comfortable with them.
While in the San Bernardino mountain town of Forest Falls, residents like Vicki Jelly Ross say they're thankful to be alive. Following a massive mudslide that trapped firefighters Sunday night and narrowly missed her home.
There was just so much mud that it just went right over everything.
Residents say the mountain just gave way and came pouring down this road. What's left, about 6 feet of mud. You can see this is like quicksand. And officials say that until this is clear, an entire town is cut off. Meanwhile, in eastern Washington state, multiple wildfires continue to threaten lives and property, scorching more than 20,000 acres and forcing thousands to evacuate. NBC's Jesse Kirsch is there.
Here in the small city of Medical Lake, parts of this community ravaged by wildfire. Take a look at this neighborhood. Home after home burned to the ground.
Back in Southern California, the bravery and training of first responders is being credited with saving dozens from fast-rising floodwaters. This morning, the aftermath. Buckled railroad tracks, abandoned vehicles, and a half-submerged 18-wheeler. A sobering reminder of the storm's destructive power. Officials tell me that the damage assessment will begin in earnest today. They're looking at two things here in Southern California. They're looking at residences and damage to infrastructure to see if this area qualifies for that FEMA assistance. Meanwhile, they're still extremely concerned about more mudslides like this one. Joe.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much.
Now let's take a closer look at the fire danger in the Pacific Northwest that we just saw there and get more from NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch.
With thousands of people under evacuation orders and dozens of homes destroyed, unpredictable wildfires are testing eastern Washington state.
As I turn 180, it's just from here, it's gone.
Outside Spokane, the Gray Fire devastating multiple communities.
We had about a half an hour, maybe, to get out.
Sandy Hastings and her husband fled their vacation home.
When you saw this for the first time,
did I cry? Yeah.
Now they're staying in a Red Cross shelter, waiting to see what's left in the rubble.
You get upset thinking about all the stuff that you had of memory-wise, and the before pictures of it starting out, and then the after pictures of it just being gone.
And in nearby Medical Lake, officials estimate roughly 100 homes are gone. In this city alone, at the peak, roughly 5,000 people ordered to evacuate.
I just see a fireball up behind the white building, and I was just, my reaction was like, oh crap, I need to make sure they're evacuating.
Among those in danger, a group of roughly 50 residents who use wheelchairs. Josh Bartholomew says he and others pushed the group uphill for about a quarter mile to safety.
It was scary. I needed to get people out. It was dire, life or death, because it was coming.
Authorities say hundreds of firefighters in the region are still racing to contain the fires, imploring people to follow evacuation orders.
Not everyone chose to leave, and some people are going back. The problem is at any point in time, fire can change, especially with wind.
Officials worry winds could reignite hotspots, even in already hard-hit areas like this one. But winds are also sending smoke far beyond the fire zone, and that's contributing to dangerous air quality across the Northwest. Back to you.
All right, Jesse Kirsch, thank you so much.
And we are tracking a new tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico.
For that and more, let's get to meteorologist Michelle Grossman. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. Yeah, we're on our 8th named storm in the Atlantic tropical season. Tropical Storm Harold became a tropical storm overnight. It's looking at winds at 45 miles per hour. It will move on land the next few hours, late morning into the early afternoon hours. It's going to bring a lot of rain with it, also some winds and the chance for a few tornadoes. So here's the latest. It's moving northwest at 18 miles per hour. It's moving fairly quickly. That's good news, but it will bring lots of rain as it does and lots of wind. Here's the forecast track as we go throughout time here. By later on this morning into the early afternoon hours, it will make landfall as a tropical storm somewhere between Corpus Christi and Brownsville along the Gulf Coast of Texas. And then it's going to move into portions of Mexico. It's going to weaken as it does that. Rainfall amounts anywhere from 3 to 5 inches, but could see isolated amounts up to 7 inches. That's going to prompt some flash flooding, some flooding as well. Where you see those darker colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows from Corpus Christi to Brownsville, Laredo, you could see some very heavy rainfall and, of course, could see some gusty winds as well. As we go throughout time here, we're going to see the chance for a few tornadoes as well. We're even seeing a little lightning now with those outer bands, the convective bands. And with any of those storms, we could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Tropical alerts extend from portions of the Gulf Coast of Texas down to southern Texas, where you see the orange, that is a tropical storm warning. Storm surge forecast 1 to 3 feet. That is like a wall of water being pushed on shore. So dangerous seas, dangerous surf, and also the chance of some dangerous rip currents. That's the big story today. Also looking at more record highs in the middle of the country. This is dangerous, it's intense, and it's only going to get more intense as we go throughout the next 48 hours. We're looking at temperatures into the triple digits. So today we're looking at 102 million people impacted by heat alerts. Where you see that pink, that is an excessive heat warning. Look how far that stretches from the south central states into the Midwest, also the Ohio Valley, portions of the Southeast, looking at temperatures well above normal for this time of year, anywhere from 10 up to 20 degrees above normal. And this is why we're looking at temperatures into the triple digits. Concordia, 106. You factor in the humidity, it's going to feel like 108 there. We'll feel like 113 in Little Rock, feeling like 112 in Baton Rouge. And it's going to be hot too in Savannah, feeling like 106 once you factor in that humidity. Same story tomorrow. We're not going to get a break. We're looking at temperatures, so many triple digits on the map from the south central states, the southeast, into parts of the northern plains. Kansas City, 101 tomorrow. The heat index of 111, feeling like 112 in Memphis and 114 in Jackson. As we go throughout time here towards the weekend, we're going to get a little relief, guys. Look at Chicago. This is better news. Thursday, 98 degrees. That's hot. But then by Friday and Saturday, finally into the lower 80s, upper 70s by Saturday. Back to you.
All right. Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Former President Trump has announced when he'll turn himself in to face charges that he meddled in the 2020 election in Georgia. Trump posted on social media that he'll surrender Thursday at the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta. He has denied any wrongdoing and called the case against him election interference. Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis gave Trump and 18 fellow co-defendants until noon on Friday to surrender voluntarily. They're facing racketeering charges, accused of scheming to try to overturn the results of the 2020 election in Georgia. We're joined now by NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney. And Ken, good morning. So, a few things we know. We know Trump's legal team appeared yesterday at the Fulton County Courthouse. They headed toward the DA's office. Trump's bond has been set at $200,000. What else should we know about the conditions for his surrender in just a couple days?
Good morning, Joe. Well, what we saw in that bond order was a set of conditions for Donald Trump that we didn't see in a similar bond order for his co-defendant, John Eastman, the lawyer, which was an explicit prohibition that Donald Trump not attempt to intimidate either witnesses, co-defendants, or others, jurors, potentially others involved in the case, including via posts on social media or reposts of the posts of others. So that was explicitly laid out in the conditions of his release. It's unlike anything we've seen in any of the other cases where he's been admonished verbally by some of the judges not to do that. In this case, it's in writing. And what that means is that if he violates these conditions, he could be brought before the judge and potentially his bond could be revoked and he could be jailed. Obviously, that is an extreme step and any judge would be extremely reluctant to do that. There's a First Amendment issue here, but that is what really stood out about the conditions of Donald Trump's release in this Fulton County case, and he's expected to turn himself in on Thursday, Joe.
So, Ken, we know Trump's legal troubles have certainly not hurt his support. They maybe even helped his support. Our NBC News Des Moines Register poll now shows him with an even larger lead in Iowa after his indictment in Georgia. So where does the case go from here after Trump is eventually arraigned for the 4th time this year?
Well, now the question really becomes one of schedule. There are 4 criminal indictments against Donald Trump. These judges are now going to have to work out when these cases can go to trial. Obviously, there are disputes in each one of them. Donald Trump's legal team is trying to delay as much as possible going to trial in any of these cases. So it remains to be seen which, if any of the 4, can reach trial before the November election, even as all that presidential campaigning plays out. And there are real questions about whether Donald Trump is going to be in a courtroom or on the campaign trail. We're in uncharted territory, and there's a lot of question marks, Joe.
Ken, while I have you, I also want to ask you about one of the federal cases. Trump's legal team last week proposed that the special counsel in this January 6th election interference trial, that trial be pushed back till April 2026. We understand the Justice Department has responded to that request. I'm guessing they don't want to wait till the next midterms.
No, they don't. Remember, they have proposed a trial date of next January, which a lot of people also think is unrealistic. But they've pushed back last night in a filing to the Trump team's request to delay this trial until 2026 by saying that even though there is a large volume of discovery that the special counsel is turning over to Trump's lawyers, 11.5 million pages, what the special counsel is saying is Donald Trump's lawyers don't need to read every single one of those pages, page by page. We're in an electronics era. They can do keyword searches. It's perfectly reasonable for them to digest this amount of discovery and go to trial within a reasonable time. But this goes to the scheduling issue I mentioned before. This is going to be an ongoing dispute. Judge Tanya Chutkan in that case has scheduled a hearing for August 28th to set a trial date. It may not hold, but we'll get the first indication of how she's thinking about when this case can go to trial, Joe.
Right, Ken, you're on top of all of it for us this morning. Thank you.
Well, even though the former president won't be taking part in Wednesday's first Republican primary debate, 8 other presidential hopefuls will. The Republican National Committee announced that these 8 on your screen right now will take the debate stage in Milwaukee. They qualified after meeting the party's polling and fundraising threshold. 3 other candidates failed to meet those thresholds needed. Trump announced this week he would skip this debate and possibly others. The second Republican debate is set for September 27th at the Reagan Presidential Library in California. And a programming note, we will have full analysis following tomorrow's GOP debate. You can watch our Meet the Press special Wednesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern right here on NBC News Now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.